Hi, everyone. Good to have all of you here. Thanks for taking the time and attending this webinar. So, like Anup said, we will talk about content with relation to website and how that will help us generate leads. There are multiple aspects to creating content that will help us generate leads. And I will quickly, let me share my screen. So we've done two sessions before this, and the first one was about using Google My Business to generate leads. We had a session which in the beginning we started off the series with how to use Google My Business to get leads. Then we talked about search and Google search and how that can help us, uh, you know, generate and acquire customers using the Google's search marketing channel. And today we are talking about how the content on your website can help. And let's get into it. So there are two types of content. And I think we need to clarify that before we go any further. The first distinction we need to make is the difference between copy and content, right? Copywriting and content writing. So there are essentially two different things. So copy is what you find on the home page, the about us page, your services pages, your product pages. That's essentially short form content, right? Written in a way that's crisp and to the point and speaks in the language that a customer understands. Content, on the other hand, is generally long form and is used to build your brand, explain your values, your positioning, your point of view, and also share information and knowledge. So essentially, you have two types: copy and content, and it's important to distinguish the both. And each have their own specific use cases, right? So copy is for landing pages, is for your home pages, is for about us pages, things like that. And content would go into your blogs, your uh, guides, and long form content of that type. So how do you use content to get leads? And this whole idea of doing this is coined through this term called content marketing. So there's a long definition. Let me just break it down one step at a time to understand what really content marketing is. So it's a marketing and it's a business process. Ultimately, you're writing content, creating content to grow your business. You're not doing it for any other purpose. Ultimate goal is to grow your business, right? So therefore, it's a marketing and a business process. So what does content marketing involve? Essentially, it's creating and distributing content. So those are the two key things that puzzle of key pieces of puzzle that you have to keep in mind: creating content and distributing content. A lot of the times we focus only on creating content, forget about promoting or distributing the content. Or you focus too much on distributing the content through social media, but not enough emphasis on creating good content. So both are equally important. And what kind of content? The content has to be valuable and compelling, right? Unless your audience finds the content valuable, they're not going to get they're not going to engage with that content. So Rashmi, just before we started, was asking about how do I write a 2,000 word blog post? Maybe my audience will not um, read it or will not go through the entire thing. That's possibly true. So the first part of solving that problem is to understand your audience and their needs and desires very intimately before you decide what kind of content. And what is the content intended for? It's meant to attract, acquire, and engage, right? So the content has to be compelling to get someone's attention, and then you acquire them, and then you engage that customer. So you build trust with your audience over a period of time. Nobody will trust you in one step, so you need to build that over a period of time, and that's where content is great. And you can create content for each of those specific um, desires. So you can create content to attract your audience. You can create content to acquire. You can create content to engage. And I have a tool that I will share with you in the next few slides that will help you visualize what this would look like. And the content is targeted to a clearly defined and understood target audience. So that's something that you need to spend a lot of time understanding who your audience is, what are they looking for, and write content in a language that they understand, not um, the terms and terminologies that are familiar with to you and not so familiar to your audience. So that's the important thing to keep in mind. And of course, the whole objective of content marketing is to drive profitable customer action, to get the customer to do something that is profitable to your business. Ultimately, that is the goal of content marketing. So, so this is a tool that I was talking to you about. Now, if you look at the decision making journey of your audience, right, of your customer, generally in a B2B business, they go through multiple steps before they say, yes, I want to hire you for the service or for the solution or the product that you're selling. So what are those stages? Now, it will vary from business to business, but let's say that roughly these are the sales stages. You have contacts who get in touch with you. If they show some interest and they ask you for information, they would be termed as leads. And if they are then talking to you about making a purchase, if they're looking for alternate solutions, you would know that they're really interested, and you can call them a qualified lead. And finally, they're asking you for a proposal or a contract, and you know that they're in the final shortlist. So that's generally the sales process, which is in the black bar that you see on the top. And that's basically your internal process. That's how you tag a customer, saying, okay, this person is a lead. He or she is now a qualified lead. Internal and from a buyer standpoint, they go through their own process in their own head. So they are thinking, okay, I need to learn about this. So they're at an awareness stage. Then they're looking for information. So they're looking for vendors and searching for information. Then they might reach out to the vendor and request for information. And then finally, they get to the point where they can compare, contrast, and make that decision. So if you were to break up this entire process into different phases, you can actually write content that is specific to each stage. So if somebody who is unaware of your business or the service that you're offering, then think of content that you can write for that kind of audience who's still in the awareness stage. If you have audience who is um, comparing you with other competitors, what kind of content would be appropriate there? It will be very different, right? If someone who's aware and comparing you with other vendors, the content that you would want to provide would be very different. So this grid helps you map the different types of content that you can create for different stages of your audience journey till the time they become your customer. And on the left, you see personas. So there are different kinds of um, customers. So you will have to do that research to identify who those different types of customers are. Are they um, are they high ticket customers, or are they one-off customers? There are different ways to profile and create a persona around them. And maybe that's a topic for another webinar, but understanding your audience is crucial, right? So we looked at what content marketing is, and then spoke briefly about what are the different kinds of stages that a customer goes through, and how you can create content those specific stages, right? So a blog post might be appropriate for a customer who is at an information stage. But if somebody who is comparing and trying to make a decision, then maybe a case study would be more appropriate. So again, this varies from business to business. So you will have to think through what the customer is expecting at each stage, and then identify what is the best type of content and best format of content. So now coming to the different types of formats that you can look at. Blog, I've written blog because that's generally the easiest content format to get started with. You just need a a simple blog or a website which has this feature, and you can start writing. And so that's generally the first thing that most people get into. Of course, now videos on YouTube have exploded over the last few years. So that's again a great platform to create content. Um, and then you have podcasts. You have audio medium, which is also now gaining traction. So that's another area. Um, the other types of contents could be really long form content in form of ebooks, right? And the other way to think about it is once you create content, you spend a lot of time research, you put in your own valuable insights into to your business, and you create content. This content can then be repurposed into multiple formats. So if you, for example, have content in text, which is maybe you're putting it out in the form of blog posts, that content can then be repurposed into videos. The videos, then if you have you talking over it, then you can extract the audio and upload that separately. You can um, put multiple long form blog posts, combine them together and convert that into an ebook. So there are multiple ways to create and repurpose and reformat content. So I think the first key thing is to figure out who your audience is, and then write content that is that they're willing to read and willing to engage, and then you can dive into the different types of content formats. So I would say pick one that you are most comfortable with, and one that your most natural tendency is towards. So if you are comfortable speaking in front of the camera, then go with YouTube, right? If blogging is something that you think is easily doable, then start with that. And then you can, once you build up a body of work, you can then start looking at repurposing that content into different formats. So how to write content that works? Now, there are multiple things to keep in mind, but I've distilled it down to these few points. And it all starts with the headline, especially content in the form of blog posts or even your landing pages. When if you are looking at organic search and organic traffic um, as a way to bring in customers from Google, the first thing that they're going to read about your content is the headline. So if your headline is not interesting enough, it's not compelling enough, they're not even going to click on that link wherever they have found it. So the first thing that you need to spend time on is writing a great headline. And it takes time. It is not a trivial task. It takes time to write good headlines. And so I would suggest ensure that when you are putting down a process to create, your content marketing plan, allot a significant amount of time to come up with different versions of headlines, different variations. And I will share a tool with you that you can use, in fact, to get some feedback instantly. Also, what is the other recommendation? Long form content. So this is interesting because there was a question asked about this right at the beginning of the webinar about how long should the content be. Now, if you're looking at it from a search engine optimization standpoint, so that the content that you write is ranking on Google, and customers are therefore finding your article on Google. They see that you have a interesting headline, they click on it, they land on your website and on your blog post, they read that content, they are engaged, and they are ready to perform the next action. That's really the ideal scenario. So long form content, there are no rules like Anup mentioned. It could be 600 words, it could be 800 words, 2000 words. There are multiple studies that show a correlation between long form content and search engine ranking. So if your content is in and around 2000 words, then other topics of the same keyword or the same theme rank below you if they have if they have number of words which are less than 2000. So 2000 is a good number to aim at, but there is no rule. You can write great content which is 800 words and still rank at the top. Uh, but generally, the correlation is that good long form content tends to rank on Google. Now, another sort of distinction that you have to make is on search. If somebody is searching for your brand specifically, that's called branded search. Now, that's a very small audience, right? Assuming that there are 100 people who know about your company or your brand, they will search for your brand name followed by something, and those are branded search terms or branded queries. But that's only a limited audience. Unless you're a big brand that everybody in the world knows about, then you have a significant number of people coming to your website using your brand name. Otherwise, if you're a small business, it's most likely that they are searching for terms that are um, something that's of interest to them, which is in most cases a problem that they're trying to solve. And so they're trying to say how to solve this problem, right? Or how to find a solution to this problem. And therefore, you need to show up in Google search uh, at a high enough position with a good enough headline to get their attention and then acquire them and bring them to your site. So that's really what you're trying to do. So once you get them to your site, because you're ranking well and you've done long form content, you've identified the right keywords, you've optimized the site for the right keywords, the content itself has to be valuable, right? And one of the ranking factors that Google uses is how long a person is spending time on your site. So if the content is boring, if they land on your site and exit within the first 15 seconds, that's an indication to Google that this is not a relevant content that I should be showing to the audience that's searching for this query. So it's in the interest of Google as well that they send people to websites which have engaging content. And what that means is people landing on that website spend a lot of time reading and engaging with that website. So valuable content or even entertaining content is the way to do it. And when people are on that post and that page reading it, you must have links to other places so that you send them down that rabbit hole of finding more content, finding more interesting content, and they go down further down that funnel and learn more about your business and the services that you have to offer. And of course, every piece of content must have one single clear call to action. One button at the end or in the middle, or one that pops up, has to ask the reader or the user who's landed on the website to perform some action. It could be email subscription, it could be reading another blog post, it could be downloading something, and but you need to get your audience to engage with you and they have to perform on an action. And that's one way to measure whether your content is doing its job or not, right? So the first step that the content needs to do is get your audience to perform an action. And that brings me to the next step. Let me skip this and go to this. Yeah. So lead magnets. So what are lead magnets? You've done the hard work of understanding who your audience is, finding out what they're searching for using and identifying what the keywords are. You've written long form content using those keywords and you've optimized it in all the right places. You've got people, you're ranking, at a high enough position. You're getting people discovering you through Google and landing on your website. And once they're reading your content, the action that you want them to perform next is done through a tactic that's called lead magnets. So what is a magnet? It's essentially tactic that you use on a website that attracts and compels the user to perform an action. So what are some of these things that or forms of content that you can use as hooks to say, hey, we have this, you've read our blog post, we have something even better or something that's even more engaging, or because you've read this, this makes sense now for you to read, and therefore take a look. And in return, you collect their email IDs, their names, their phone numbers, all of the information that you can store in your database and follow up with them in due course. So what are some of the lead magnets that you can use? Guides. So creating long form content and bunching them up together and creating a guide is a great way to attract audience. People are looking for information. People are looking for, I'd say, more than information. They're looking for someone to explain and someone to help them make sense of the information that's available on the internet. So if you can explain the questions that they have in a engaging way, then you've done the job right. So guides, checklists, creating mini courses. You can teach somebody um, 5 quick things, and it can be done through a mini course, and it can be delivered over email, right? Somebody signs up for a quick email course, you can send them 5 lessons in 5 days. And once they're done with that, you know that, okay, if they're still interested in what you have to offer, that would be a good point for you to upsell them on a product or a service. So those are great ways to create content upgrades as well, and move them down the funnel. So there are 2 or 3 things that I think with regards to creating content, which is important. One is quality over quantity. So a lot of people ask, how long should the content be, or how many pieces of content we should write. At the end of the day, just to keep things simple, do what you're most comfortable with, what you think you can do consistently, and consistency trumps over everything else. If you can do one quality content piece in let's say 2 weeks, then so be it, right? There is an example of one blogger who wrote just one blog post a month, just one blog post a month, and he was getting traffic in tens and thousands. So so there are plenty of examples where if you spend enough time creating quality content and do that consistently at whatever frequency you think you're most comfortable with, then that will work, right? As long as, like Anup said, you have the audience that you understood really well, understood where they are, and therefore you're creating content for them and delivering it to places where they are spending time on the internet. So that's important. But when it comes to consistency, an editorial calendar is extremely helpful. So whatever form of content, whether it's videos or blog posts or um, guides that you're doing, have a content calendar. Map that out over a timeline, saying over the next 3 months, this is what I will be creating, and these are the dates, and then work backwards from there. That will ensure that your content goes out consistently over that time period. So we spoke about lead magnets. Maybe after I wrap up this, we can look at some examples of lead magnets that are some of the websites use, and understand how they work. So quickly, some of the things that lead magnets do, and characteristics of these across different types of lead magnets, is that they solve a real and immediate problem. So when somebody lands on your website, and like Anup was saying, and we discussed the different stages: the awareness stage, the information stage, comparison, and then decision making. So not everybody is ready to make that purchase when they land. So it could take 10 visits, 25 visits, but in those first few visits, you can give them content, or you can sell them content which doesn't have a monetary value to it, but something that helps solve a real and immediate problem of theirs, right? So it could be in the form of a checklist that might help them solve a problem, right? Or it could be, for example, if you're talking about jewelry design, it could be about uh, how to polish this at home, or how to maintain it over a period of time. So those are things that will help them and solve an immediate problem, right? And once you've solved that problem with them, they've created a relationship with you, an engagement with you, and therefore they will come back to find more information, and then they might be ready at some point down the line to actually engage with you in your service or your product, right? And this lead magnet should also be very easy for you to implement, for your audience to implement. So it shouldn't be a complicated uh, strategy that you're giving. It should be something simple that they can implement in no time. And so that's a quick win, right? It's you're not making them go through different hoops and obstacles. You can save that for, for example, if you're doing a course, an online course, but something that can be taught quickly through a spreadsheet or a checklist, um, or any of these different tools, then those are lead magnets that you should be using in different parts of your website. So ROI, so we spoke about this. I've listed it in terms of priority. So once you do get to looking at metrics, look at conversion rates, followed by the lead quality, right? So there's no point getting tons of leads if they're not relevant, right? Which means you have to go back to the first stage of identifying who you're really targeting. And maybe you've misunderstood who your audience is or where they're hanging out. So lead quality is an important indicator. And then, of course, finally, website traffic. That just generally gives you a parameter to say that your website is moving in the right direction. So let me then show you a few tools. So this is uh, specific to, let's say, writing headlines. So this is, I found this resource. There's a site called coschedule.com. And if you go to their blog, you'll find this marketing funnel. They've identified all different kinds of funnels. And each one has their own definition of a funnel. So this is a good place to get an idea of what funnels are. But if you look at this on the right side, they are offering a template, right? So it says download your marketing funnel content template, given your name, email ID, and then download now. So what this course schedule actually is, they have a product that they sell, but they're not selling that product here. They've got a user on this page because somebody was interested in a marketing funnel. They've created quality content, which is long form. They have explained a lot of different things. And then they're saying, if you want more, if you want a template, put your name here and download that. So this is a lead magnet. They're collecting potential customers through this lead magnet. So that's one way of doing it. Um, with regards to writing content and headlines, there is a tool called Headline Analyzer, right? So you put in your headline and just click on Analyze Now. It analyzes your headline. It tells you what kind of content it is, and you also see that they're promoting their 14-day free trial uh, with a call to action here, right? So again, this is also a content tool that they've created where they are creating a situation where they're engaging with the audience. So I am putting in a headline. I'm getting feedback saying, okay, this headline has these few things that are done right. It's telling me what kind of headline it is. They're giving me some more tips. They're giving me an analysis saying this is the number of characters, this is the number of words, right? So they're identifying patterns in the headline. So I'm getting feedback from a tool on how good my headline is and also how I can improve it. And if I'm engaged enough and I see this message on the right that says, um, is your marketing a mess? Plan, promote, and execute your entire marketing strategy in one place. And they have a template and they have a tool that they're selling. So they're using this headline analyzer as a lead magnet to then promote what they really want you to uh, purchase through a 14-day free trial. So again, they're not even asking you to buy the product here. They're giving you a 14-day free trial. So they're making you go through multiple small steps and hoping to convince you at each stage that they are the right platform and they're the right product for your problem. And if you also look at this, right, is your marketing a mess? Now that's based on the research work that they have done to identify who their audience is. So they're targeting folks who are blogging, who are investing time and effort in marketing and saying, okay, is somebody struggling with marketing? We have a solution that can help. And so then they're pitching their product out of framing that problem. So identifying the buyers persona and their problems is critical. Um, so we have a long post about this where we've linked a whole bunch of tools to help with very specific activities regarding content marketing. So I'll share this link with you on chat, and you can explore this further. Especially if you're using WordPress, there are multiple ways to create tools, lead magnets, repurpose your old content, revive your old content, optimize your headlines. So add images on the fly. So we've talked a lot about that in our guide. So let me just share that at the end of the webinar, and hopefully that'll be of some help to you.